You've always loved Emma more than me, and now you're proving it with money. 28 years of being the disappointment daughter. And this is how it ends. You literally putting a price tag on how much less I'm worth to you. My youngest daughter, Chloe, 28F, screamed this at me, 61M, 3 days ago during what started as a family dinner to discuss my recent lottery win and ended with her storming out, saying she never wanted to see me again. I'm still shaking from the confrontation, and I genuinely don't know if I've made a terrible mistake or if she's being unreasonable about a decision I thought was fair and practical. Let me explain the whole situation because it's complicated and I need outside perspectives on whether I've been as unfair as Chloe claims. 2 months ago, I won $2.8 million in our state lottery. After taxes, I'm looking at about $1.7 million, which is more money than I ever imagined having. My wife died 4 years ago from cancer, and I've been living alone in our family home, a beautiful Victorian that my wife and I restored over 25 years. The house is worth approximately $800,000 and sits on 2 acres in a desirable area outside the city. I have 2 daughters, Emma, 32F, and Chloe, 28F. Both are married with children, and I love them both deeply, though I'll admit our relationships with them have been different due to their very different life paths and personalities. Emma has always been what you might call the responsible daughter. She got good grades, went to college on scholarships, became a high school teacher, married her college boyfriend Tom, also a teacher, and they have 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 4. Emma and Tom have always struggled financially. Teachers don't make much, and with 3 kids, they're constantly stressed about money. They rent a small house in the city, and Emma has mentioned multiple times over the years how much she wishes they could afford to buy something in a good school district. Emma has also been incredibly helpful to me since my wife died. She calls me every day, comes over every weekend to help with household projects, includes me in all family activities, and has basically become my emotional support system. When I was going through the worst of my grief, Emma was the one who made sure I ate, helped me sort through my wife's belongings, and convinced me to start going to a grief support group. Chloe, on the other hand, has always been more independent and unpredictable. She was a wild teenager, dropped out of college twice, and has had a series of jobs and relationships that never seemed to work out long term. Don't get me wrong, I love Chloe and I'm proud of her in many ways. She's creative, adventurous, and has a big heart. But she's also made choices that have been hard for me to understand or support. 3 years ago, Chloe married Jake, 30M, a guy I've never particularly warmed up to. Jake works in construction when he can find steady work, but he has a history of getting fired from jobs and what I consider to be poor financial judgment. Last year, they had to move in with Jake's parents after getting evicted from their apartment for non-payment of rent. Chloe and Jake have 1 child together, my grandson Tyler, 2M, who I adore. But I worry constantly about their stability and their ability to provide for him consistently. Since my wife died, Chloe's contact with me has been sporadic. She'll go weeks without calling, then show up unexpectedly asking for money, usually a few $100s for rent, car repairs, or other emergencies. I've always given her what she asked for because she's my daughter and I want to help, but it's been a pattern that's concerned me. Emma, meanwhile, has never asked me for money, even though I know they struggle. When I've offered to help with the kids' activities or school expenses, Emma has always been grateful but also tried to pay me back or find ways to return the favor. So when I won the lottery and started thinking about how to use this windfall to help my daughters, I looked at their situations and tried to figure out what would be most beneficial for each of them. For Emma, the biggest issue has always been housing. They're paying $2,400 a month in rent for a tiny house in a mediocre school district, which means they're throwing away nearly $30,000 a year with nothing to show for it. Emma has told me many times how much she wishes they could build equity and get the kids into better schools, but they can't save enough for a down payment while paying such high rent. I realized that if I gave Emma the family house, it would solve multiple problems at once. She'd have a mortgage-free home in an excellent school district, her kids would have space to grow up, and she'd finally have the financial stability she's worked so hard for. The house has 4 bedrooms, a big yard, and is in one of the best school districts in the state. For a family with 3 kids and limited income, it would be life-changing. For Chloe, I thought cash would be more useful. She and Jake have never expressed interest in settling down in one area long term, and they've talked about maybe moving to different states for work opportunities. A house would tie them down, but cash would give them flexibility to get their lives on track, pay off debts, put a down payment on their own place, wherever they choose to live, maybe start the business Jake has always talked about. I also thought that giving Chloe cash would be more immediately helpful for Tyler. They could use the money to get into stable housing, maybe get a reliable car, and create some financial security for my grandson. My plan was to give Emma the house, worth about $800,000, and give Chloe $800,000 in cash. I thought this was fair, equal value, but distributed in the way that would most benefit each daughter's specific situation. I'd use the remaining money to set up college funds for all 4 grandchildren, make some charitable donations, and keep a modest emergency fund for my own future needs. Last month, I sat down with Emma first to discuss the idea. I wanted to get her input before making any final decisions. Emma was shocked and overwhelmed. She started crying and said it was the most generous thing anyone had ever done for her family. She asked multiple times if I was sure if I wouldn't need the house for myself, if it was really okay to accept such an enormous gift. I assured her that I'd been thinking about downsizing anyway, and that seeing her family thrive in the house where she grew up would make me incredibly happy. Emma asked about Chloe and what I was planning for her. When I explained the cash gift, Emma said she thought it sounded fair, and that both gifts were incredibly generous. 2 weeks ago, I asked both daughters to come over for dinner, so I could share my decision with both of them together. Emma already knew what was coming, but Chloe had no idea. I had prepared a whole speech about how much I loved both of them, and how I wanted to use this money to set them both up for success in ways that made sense for their different situations. I explained the house situation to Chloe and told her about my plan to give her $800,000 in cash. For a moment, Chloe looked thrilled. $800,000 is obviously a life-changing amount of money. But then I saw her face change as she processed the full situation. "Wait," she said. "You're giving Emma the house?" "The family house." I explained that I thought the house would be more useful for Emma's family situation, while cash would give Chloe more flexibility. But Chloe immediately focused on the sentimental value of the house rather than the financial aspects of the arrangement. "That house is where we grew up," she said. "That's Mom's garden. That's the kitchen where she taught us to cook. That's the room where she used to read to us. And you're just giving it to Emma?" I tried to explain that the house would stay in the family and that she'd always be welcome there, but Chloe was getting more upset. "It's not about being welcome," she said. "It's about the fact that Emma gets to keep all the family memories and I get a check." Emma tried to interject that maybe they could work out some kind of sharing arrangement, but Chloe snapped at her to stay out of it. "This is between me and Dad," she said. "And it's pretty clear which daughter he prefers." I was shocked by this accusation. I tried to explain that my decision was based on practical considerations, not favoritism. But Chloe said that giving Emma the family home was obviously the more meaningful gift, regardless of the dollar value. "Money can be spent," she said. "But that house is irreplaceable. It's our family history, it's where Mom lived, and you're giving it to Emma like I don't even exist." I tried to suggest that maybe we could work out a different arrangement, but Chloe said it was too late. I'd already revealed my true feelings. "You think Emma deserves the family legacy because she's been the good daughter," she said. "And I get bought off with cash because I'm the disappointment." Emma tried to defend me, saying that wasn't what I meant at all, but Chloe turned on her. "Don't pretend you don't know you've always been his favorite," she said. "You've been playing the perfect daughter role your whole life, and now you're getting rewarded for it." The dinner deteriorated from there. Chloe accused me of using the money to formalize the favoritism she claimed I'd always shown Emma. She said that giving Emma the house was a way of ensuring that Emma would be seen as the real inheritor of the family legacy, while Chloe would be seen as someone who got paid off and sent away. I tried to explain that both gifts were extremely generous and that I'd put a lot of thought into what would be most helpful for each of them. But Chloe said that the fact that I discussed it with Emma first proved that I saw Emma as my real heir and Chloe as an afterthought. "You made the decision with Emma," she said. "I'm just being informed of what you two already decided." That wasn't accurate. I'd only asked Emma for her input, not made the decision with her, but Chloe wouldn't listen to my explanations. She also brought up the fact that Emma had always been closer to me since my wife's death, and said that I was now rewarding Emma for manipulating me during my grief. Emma was horrified by this accusation and said she'd never manipulated anyone. She'd just tried to help me through a difficult time. But Chloe said that Emma had deliberately made herself indispensable to me so that she'd be in line for the bigger inheritance. She played the dutiful daughter while I was trying to figure out my own life, Chloe said. And now she gets the prize for being Dad's emotional support animal. That comment really hurt Emma, who started crying. She said she'd helped me because she loved me, not because she expected anything in return. But Chloe said that whether Emma intended it or not, she'd position herself as the deserving daughter, while Chloe was seen as irresponsible and unworthy of the family home. The argument continued for another hour, with Chloe making increasingly hurtful comments about both Emma and me. She said that I'd never believed in her or supported her dreams, and that I'd always seen her as a failure compared to Emma. She said that Emma had always been jealous of Chloe's freedom and creativity and had compensated by becoming an approval-seeking people-pleaser. She accused us both of ganging up on her and making her feel like an outsider in her own family. Finally, she said that it was clear that Emma and I had the family relationship we wanted, and that there wasn't room for Chloe in it. That's when she said the quote I opened with about always loving Emma more and putting a price tag on their relative worth. She also said that she'd rather have no inheritance than accept money that came with the message that she wasn't worthy of the family home. She stormed out, saying she needed to think about whether she wanted to have a relationship with either of us anymore. Emma was devastated and said she didn't want the house if it was going to destroy our family. But I was also hurt and angry. $800,000 is an enormous, generous gift, and I felt like Chloe was being ungrateful and manipulative by rejecting it because she didn't get the house too. The next day, Emma called me and said she'd been thinking about the situation all night. She said she understood Chloe's feelings about the house and its sentimental value, and she suggested that maybe we should reconsider the arrangement. Emma proposed that we sell the house and split the proceeds, then divide the remaining lottery money equally between both daughters. I appreciated Emma's attempt to find a compromise, but I was frustrated that Chloe's tantrum was derailing a plan that I thought was fair and beneficial to everyone. I also realized that selling the house would be emotionally devastating for me. It's where my wife and I built our life together, where we raised our daughters, where most of my happiest memories took place. I'd been looking forward to seeing Emma's children grow up in the same house where she'd grown up. 2 days ago, Chloe called me. I hoped she was calling to apologize and discuss the situation more rationally. Instead, she told me that she'd been talking to Jake's parents and some friends, and that everyone agreed that my plan was obviously unfair and showed clear favoritism toward Emma. She said that she'd spoken to a family lawyer, Jake's uncle, who told her that giving one child the family home while giving the other child cash was a classic example of how parents reward the child they prefer while buying off the child they don't. Chloe said that if I went through with my current plan, she would consider it proof that I'd never loved her as much as I loved Emma, and that she'd have to protect Tyler from the kind of favoritism and emotional manipulation that she'd grown up with. She said that unless I was willing to split everything equally, either by selling the house or by giving her half ownership of it, she didn't want any of the money and didn't want Tyler to have a relationship with me. I was shocked by this ultimatum. The idea that she'd keep my grandson away from me because I wouldn't give her the house she wanted was devastating. But I was also angry that she was making threats and trying to manipulate me into changing my decision. I told her that I'd made my decision based on what I thought would be best for both families and that I wasn't going to be blackmailed into changing it. Chloe said that my refusal to reconsider proved that I cared more about my own preferences than about maintaining a relationship with her and Tyler. She hung up on me, and we haven't spoken since. Yesterday, Emma came over to talk. She said she'd been getting texts from Chloe accusing her of manipulating me and stealing Chloe's inheritance. Emma said that she felt terrible about the situation and offered again to give up the house so that we could find a solution that wouldn't destroy the family. I told Emma that I appreciated her willingness to sacrifice, but that I didn't want to reward Chloe's manipulative behavior by giving in to her demands. I also said that I'd made my decision based on practical considerations about what each daughter needed most, and that changing it because Chloe threw a tantrum would set a terrible precedent. But Emma said that she was worried about losing her sister forever, and that maybe the family relationship was more important than the specific details of the inheritance. "I don't need the house," she said. "I need my family intact." That comment really got to me because Emma has always been the peacemaker in our family, and I could see how much this conflict was hurting her. But I also felt like giving in to Chloe's demands would validate her accusation that Emma had somehow manipulated me, which wasn't fair to Emma. This morning, I got a call from my brother-in-law, my late wife's brother, who said that Chloe had reached out to him about the situation. He said that he understood my reasoning, but that he thought I should consider the emotional impact of my decision more carefully. "Patricia always said that house was both girls' heritage," he said, referring to my late wife. "Maybe Chloe feels like you're taking away her connection to her mother." That comment hit me hard because my wife did love that house and always talked about how she hoped it would stay in the family for generations. But she also would have wanted me to make practical decisions that helped both daughters succeed in life. My brother-in-law suggested that maybe I could give Emma money for her own house down payment and keep the family house for both daughters to inherit eventually. But that would mean Emma's family would continue struggling with rent and poor schools for years longer, which defeats the purpose of using the lottery money to help them now. I've also gotten calls from a few other family members who've heard about the situation. Most seem to think that Chloe is being unreasonable, but a few have suggested that the sentimental value of the family home might be more important than I'm considering. My next-door neighbor, who's known both girls since they were little, said that she always thought Chloe was more attached to the house than Emma was, and that maybe I should take that into account. But my sister thinks Chloe is being spoiled and manipulative and that I shouldn't give in to her demands. $800,000 is an incredible gift, she said. If that's not enough for Chloe, then nothing will be. Now I'm questioning everything. Did I make the wrong decision? Am I showing favoritism without realizing it? I've been going over my reasoning repeatedly, practical considerations that supported my decision. Emma's family has housing instability and would benefit enormously from mortgage-free homeownership. The house is in an excellent school district that would benefit Emma's 3 children. Chloe and Jake have talked about potentially moving to other states, so tying them to this location with a house might not be helpful. Cash gives Chloe flexibility to address their immediate financial problems and make choices about where to live. Both gifts are equal in dollar value. Emotional considerations I may have overlooked. The house has deep sentimental value as the family home where both girls grew up. Giving one daughter the family home, while giving the other cash, might send a message about who belongs to the family legacy. Chloe might feel like she's being paid off and sent away, while Emma gets to preserve the family memories. The house represents a connection to their deceased mother that can't be replaced with money. Relationship dynamics that might be affecting my judgment. Emma has been more involved in my life since my wife died, which might make me feel closer to her. Chloe's financial struggles and requests for money might make me see her as less responsible. My disapproval of Jake might be influencing my feelings about Chloe's family situation. I might be unconsciously rewarding Emma for being the dutiful daughter. Looking at it this way, I can see how Chloe might interpret my decision as favoritism, even though that wasn't my intention. But I also feel like $800,000 in cash is an incredibly generous gift that would solve most of Chloe's immediate problems and set up Tyler's future. The idea that she'd reject it and cut me off from my grandson because it's not the gift she wanted seems selfish and manipulative to me. I keep going back and forth between feeling like I made a fair, practical decision and wondering if I've made a terrible mistake that's going to destroy my family. Some additional context that might be relevant. My wife and I never discussed what should happen to the house after we were both gone. We assumed we'd figure it out when the time came. Both daughters have expressed love for the house over the years, but Emma's need for stable housing for her children seemed more urgent to me. Chloe has never directly asked for the house, but she has made comments over the years about hoping it would stay in the family. I genuinely thought both daughters would be thrilled with their gifts. I never anticipated this level of conflict. The lottery money is more than I ever expected to have, and I want to use it to help both daughters succeed. But I also don't want to be manipulated into making decisions based on threats and ultimatums. I'm 61 years old and don't have unlimited time to rebuild relationships. The idea that this conflict might permanently damage my relationship with Chloe and Tyler is terrifying. So here are my questions for Reddit. Am I showing favoritism by giving Emma the house and Chloe cash, even though the dollar amounts are equal? Is Chloe justified in feeling hurt by my decision, or is she being unreasonable and manipulative? Should I change my plan to keep the family peace, or would that reward bad behavior and set a terrible precedent? How much weight should I give to the sentimental value of the house versus the practical benefits of my current plan? Is there a compromise that could satisfy both daughters while still using the money to help them in meaningful ways? Am I being unfair to Emma by considering changes to a plan that would dramatically improve her family's life? How do I handle Chloe's threat to cut me off from my grandson if I don't give her what she wants? I genuinely want to do the right thing for both daughters, but I don't know how to balance practical considerations, emotional needs, and family dynamics. Any advice would be appreciated. TLDR, after winning the lottery, I plan to give one daughter the family house, $800,000 value, and the other daughter $800,000 cash, thinking this matched their different needs. The daughter getting cash says I'm showing favoritism and is threatening to cut me off unless I split everything equally. AITA for my original plan? Update, edit added 4 hours later. I've been reading all the comments, and they've given me a lot to think about. A few people have asked about specific details. On Emma's involvement in the decision, several people pointed out that discussing the plan with Emma first, even just to get her input, probably did make Chloe feel excluded from the decision-making process. That wasn't my intention, but I can see how it looked like Emma and I made the decision together and then informed Chloe. On the sentimental value issue, many comments have helped me realize that I may have underestimated how important the house is to Chloe as a connection to her mother and her childhood. The practical benefits for Emma are real, but so are Chloe's emotional needs. On the equal treatment question, some people have pointed out that equal doesn't always mean same, and that different gifts for different needs can be fair. Others have argued that when it comes to family heirlooms, equal treatment is more important than practical considerations. On compromise options, several people have suggested alternatives I hadn't fully considered, like giving both daughters co-ownership of the house, or using part of the lottery money to buy Emma a different house while keeping the family home for both girls to inherit later. I'm planning to call both daughters tonight to propose a family meeting where we can all discuss this together, rather than me making unilateral decisions. Maybe we can find a solution that works for everyone. Major update, edit added 10 hours later. We had the family meeting this evening, and it was intense, but ultimately productive. Emma, Chloe, and I sat down together for the first time since the initial blow-up. I started by apologizing for the way I'd handled the decision-making process. Discussing it with Emma first made it seem like the two of us had conspired against Chloe, which wasn't fair. Chloe was still hurt and angry, but she was willing to talk. She explained that the house represents her connection to her mother in a way that cash never could. She said that when she imagines visiting Tyler's grandmother's house with him, she wants it to be the house where she grew up, where her mother's garden still blooms every spring. Emma surprised me by saying that she'd been thinking about it and realized that she'd been so focused on the practical benefits of the house that she hadn't considered how important it was to Chloe emotionally. After a lot of discussion, we came up with a solution that I think works for everyone. Both daughters will inherit the house jointly when I die, with the understanding that whoever is living there will maintain it and that both families will always have access to it. Emma's family can live in the house now, paying me a modest amount each month, less than half what they currently pay in rent. That will go into a house maintenance fund. I'll give Chloe $700,000 in cash now to help stabilize her family's situation. I'll give Emma $300,000 in cash to help with the kids' expenses and to make up for the fact that she's not getting as much cash as Chloe. The remaining money will go to college funds for all the grandchildren and some charitable donations. This way, Emma gets the immediate housing stability she needs, Chloe gets substantial cash to build her life, and both daughters maintain their connection to the family home and their mother's memory. Chloe started crying when we worked out this arrangement and apologized for some of the things she'd said. She admitted that she'd been feeling insecure about her place in the family and that the house issue had brought all of that to the surface. Emma also apologized for not speaking up sooner about how the original plan might affect Chloe. It's not perfect. Emma's getting less cash than in my original plan, and Chloe's getting less cash too. But both daughters seem genuinely happy with the compromise, and more importantly, our family relationships are intact. I learned a lot from this experience about the importance of including everyone in major decisions, even when I think I'm being generous. Money and inheritance bring out complicated emotions that aren't always rational, but that doesn't make them less valid.